I live for impact, and I'm going to leave an impact in this world. All right, so this what I went into this time around was even worse than what I had been in at that time. As after hitting frustration and having not been taught rightly in church, we still do this kind of trying to do it ourselves. So hitting that frustration, I was like, I didn't want to be a hypocrite again. I stopped going to church and all of that. And this was where I now got into other forms of drugs. Like, this was where I now started to go really deeper. I got into other forms of drugs. What's it called? All this cough syrup, high grades of marijuana, loud, codeine, rochi, all this stuff. So I started going into it. And it kept drawing. Now, something happened in my life in the sense that I now got a good job. I got a job that, it was paying fair enough, 100K. I mean, it's quite, most youths in Nigeria, you dream for that kind of, stuff to just keep yourself going. So I was managing a facility in Area 1, an event center, very big and promising event center. Now, it happened that the space where this office is located seemed to be the hub of crack cocaine. So this was the hub of crack cocaine. And, started doing it with a friend. A friend introduced me, and, bit by bit. So with time, I started bringing for him. Then gradually, because I was getting some cash, like I told you, now responsibility was nowhere. So I was using this money just for gambling, and alcohol, drugs. So this latter phase of my life, this drug part, was really, the peak of it. So I got into crack cocaine, and I was really into it. Within that area, they call me manager, because I was managing, the facility. And when I come into the bunk, you know how that life is now. You'll be healed and all of those things. You're buying in bulk. Now, this was where I now knew what addiction really was. So the other drugs, there's one we call Thailand. It's brown, and that is even worse than the crack cocaine, because if you don't take crack cocaine, you could somehow manage. But you see, with that Thailand, once it's morning, like, you begin to feel that feverish. Your body just begins to crave for it. So I was staying in the office, and it's an event center, a new one, and that was how I started using company funds to, found a way that clients, when they pay into my account. You have 400K, like that, and it's not like this money was kept. It's being kept or saved somewhere, like you stole to go and keep somewhere. It's that you stole it, and within, a few moments, it's just gone. Like, when I mean gone. Now, my life really was crumbling before me, and there was no help. At this point, addiction is something that I pity people who are in there, because sometimes they could have that desire to want to stop. They could know that, okay, man, this shit is not good, but you have been hooked, and once you're hooked, you're hooked. Now, this is where you need something, you need help, you really need help. So I was at that point, like, I would go online and I would check the effects of crack cocaine, what are the dangers and all of these things. And I would still come back, after seeing all it says, I would still come back and I would smoke crack. Sometimes I'm even smoking it and checking it. So it was just terrible. So this is when you now know someone is a slave. It's a slave. Like, man cannot help himself from this act. So when you see certain people do certain things, to an extent, they're actually helpless. To an extent, to a very large extent. It's beyond what we see, So I was into this thing, and it got to a point where, I don't know what happened within that area. Area 1 is a hub for drug, all kinds of drug. Now, it got to a point where I started staying in the office. not because I couldn't go home and come back, but because of, I had this supply there, and I was already known on different bunks, like different bunks, they knew me, manager, I had personal dealers who could supply and all of those things with company funds. So sometimes by 1, 2 a.m. I'm still in the bunk smoking, it's just close to my office, like just a walk. I would just walk into the office from there. Sometimes we're having an event and I would just call someone, they just walk to the gate, they just supply, or I would just go, I just kept doing it and doing it, just smoking the whole thing, like I was really into this shit. So it got to a time where all of a sudden, I just saw how much I had squandered company funds, and I think I was so high on drug that day. I had taken Rochi, excess, and it didn't start playing out immediately, and I didn't get sleep throughout the night. I was on drug. God just helped me not to die of overdose. So that particular day I was at work, there was an event. That was the last event I had in that company, or I managed in that company. And I was acting normal, and I went into my office. I don't know, I think some people videoed it, what happened. Yeah, I think I was shown the video. I lost consciousness in the sense that I didn't remember such a thing happened. That is one, until I was shown the video. I didn't remember it happened. But while it was happening, I felt I was, and it has never happened to me. Like when he says, when it comes to drinking, I drink, my brand then was Spirit, anything from 44% upward. Like we'll sit down, we'll drink, we'll smoke, this guy, nothing. You pass out, people will pass out, Newman will still be. Just I think once or twice, I actually felt, got really drunk, got really intoxicated, that I couldn't, recall what I was doing. So this time, it was just, I saw the magnitude, I couldn't help it, and I don't know how it got out, but I just had this sense that, man, it's gone bad. And if it was real, till now, I was like, well, God has the way he does things. Maybe it happened for a purpose. But looking back, I was like, was it that I was beginning to go mad or something? Because I could hear the building next to us, they were doing a building construction there. I could hear them talk about this manager, talk about my activities in the nights and all of those things. And sometimes I even go to tell them not to talk about these things, like I won't threaten them with the people around, and so somehow I felt this thing was coming out. Somehow I felt like, okay, my management, I got into using loan apps because of this shit. Even when my boss was generous enough to help me out one time, I still got back into that to offset it. I still went, like he literally cleared it, gave me, he was a kind man, very kind. He cleared for me and, helped me to dash me a kind of huge sum of money. But I still went back using those loan apps because of this addiction. Like it was messing my life up. Coupled with the fact that I was using the company funds. There was a church that was paying, they do pay monthly, so you're supposed to pay 1 million for the month. And I'll just siphon some part of it, remit some part, tell the company that, okay, the church is here to balance up. Meanwhile, give the church a full, all these kind of gimmicks, just to have that funds to spend. So at that point, when something went wrong somewhere. Something went wrong. I believe God just had a plan for me. But something went wrong in the sense that maybe the dealers, my several dealers within that place became envious. You've left this camp, you're going to the other camp. So I don't know if the dealers also planned, but I'm not looking at that. I still look at, the hand of God. I told you, the world is controlled by what we cannot see. So I believe somehow God orchestrated that to happen. So I left the bunk where I was patronizing. I went to another bunk. I left that bunk, went to another. So somehow, whatever happened, I ran out of my office. I didn't go home, but my supervisor started calling me, Newman, what's up? There are events. I abandoned the events. I started calling, making some phone calls, telling people that I've been kidnapped, this and this, I need money. This was how much, drug had gotten into me. So it got to a point where my company started looking for me with police now. I think everything now became clear that this guy has, has stolen money and is on the road. So they started looking for me, started even arresting people close to me, unfortunately. And, but I was within Area 1. I was just within that territory, just changing bunks. Now the bunks are such that it's just like bacha houses, just nylon, this kind of, what do you call it now, trampoline stuff, just covered, sealed. You sleep on the ground. I started mingling with people that, in quotes, I'm not supposed to mingle. These are criminals. What they basically do is that they go to steal for these drug dealers, and then they get drugs in the morning free of charge on the assurance that when they go out to go and steal, maybe they could steal anything. People, they specialize in different, theft. So people go to parks to collect way bills. So they trace the number somehow and claim it as if it's their own. And then before the owner arrives, the original owner arrives, they collected whatever is in the way bill. The drug dealer gives them crack for that, and then buys the remaining at a useless amount, which they don't collect. They just use it to be collecting drugs. So some other ones snatch phones at that Area 1. That is what they do. So they snatch phone just to go and use it for drugs. So the drug dealer will now do what? Sell these phones outside to people who sell phones fairly use. You get it? So these ones they go to clubs, they just pick people's things, watch, all to get drug. So this was now, one day I sat out there in the bush. I was living with them, like in the night I was just there. Meanwhile, police were looking for me. So I was like, wow, Newman, see where your life is at this point. But I couldn't help myself, that's the truth. I just couldn't help myself. But I was seeing it, I was seeing what was happening to me. Maybe if I wasn't so high on drug at any particular time, I would think about this thing in remorse. But then when drug comes, so at a point the preferential treatment I was getting, because the funds wasn't there again, the preferential treatment, just died off naturally. I was now just like any of these guys that would see me before and like, hey, guy, you've come, all this respect. Now I was eating their food that maybe I wouldn't have eaten on a normal day. I was sharing with them. I was in the bush, from one bush to another bush, and wow, looking at it. So this was me now. I'd left office, and it was just I kept calling people. Alpha, borrow me 2K, tell this lie. So at the point I said to that, man, this is the life I'm on. I mean, people have stolen money and they're still in Nigeria. So how much is 1.something million that I had squandered? That I got encouragement, like I could say. So I was now ready to enter and be absorbed into this life, like find my own part in it, where I can fit in, where I can use my own God-given talent for this kind of work. So I was in the process of that when there was a raid on one of the bunks, and it happened that I was inside one of the rooms and every other person was outside, and there was this raid. Police just came, just stormed the place, and everybody ran. I and the person who were inside the room, so it was like, wait first, let him check, because he knew that, okay, my office people were looking for me. So most times we do, just pay Allah, look at the road, because it was quite close to the road. So I was like, let him see what was happening. But we heard that footstep. Once I wanted to, like, wait, let him look. He was like, run. So he went out, and I was the last to come out. Immediately I came out from the door, and the room where we were in was closest to the road. Immediately I went out. That was how I just saw police. So I still ran, but that space with which I came, I couldn't balance. I fell. I stood up again. There's a gutter, a small stream there from which you can cross to the other part. So I jumped inside. It's still staggering. Next thing I heard was, shoot him. They just cracked the gun. Shoot him. So I wanted to just move again. And something was just lie down still, just lay still. I know that there was just this thing that just came over me, was just stay still. Looking back, I was like, oh, that would have been my end there that day, you get it. And it would have been termed, drug busts, and these are the guys, one was killed. And nobody will come and say it is not a good thing or condemn the police because these are criminals. And this guy that has been killed, I mean, why would you be killed in a forest where they sell drugs? Well, nobody will come out to talk or even fight anything. So I would have been killed there that day. And they handcuffed me. Next thing, what do you do? When I saw they were asking that kind of question, I knew, okay, these guys are not from my office. I thought they were from my office. So I told them something else. I actually write. I've written a book, a children's literature. So I told them I'm just a writer. And I came from my house to buy. Where do you stay? I told them where I stay. So I didn't mention anything about my office space because my office was not far from there. They could have taken me to the office and then they'll be like, okay, we're even looking for him. And everything would have gotten compounded. So as God will have it, they're like, okay, I should show them where the drugs are kept and all of those things. I'm the drug dealer and all of those things. So it happened that, well, we know corruption in different places, but they had their own illegal runs there, but that's not the focus. So I was taken and handcuffed, and I was to be taken to their police station, but that was not why they came there. They were just passing and maybe got information that something like that happens there, so they decided to just raid and whatever it was they wanted to do. So, but along the line, I was like, wow, this is how I'm going to prison as a drug addict. Like, it was sure. This one is sure. I don't have a background where people bring money to come and, not a rich kid kind of thing. And it's crack cocaine. Wow. And I've already been labeled as the baron since I couldn't tell this thing. Of course, I didn't have any defense, you get it. Somewhere along the line on the road, they just parked. I was trying to contemplate what was happening. Maybe one of these, they are kind of illegal killing now. They just parked. Where's your slipper safe? I was like, I left it. Okay, take. They just gave me one slipper from the car. They said, go and sin no more. So that was one statement. Go and sin no more. So that's why I feel, I'm very much convinced that, things that happen to us are actually beyond what we can see. So go and sin no more. That was a voice I heard beyond the man or the people speaking. I think that was just divine God speaking to me. That was where, the major work in my life started. Now, that's happened. And guess what I did? My mind was, because of addiction, my mind was hinged back on, like I was calculating. Everybody has run out of the bunk. In that scuffle, in that eagerness to get out, maybe some drugs would have fallen down. Let me be the first to run back there and go and get back. Man, addiction is bad. So look at me, that's supposed to be like, and I was thinking how to get there. That was how I found my way. And I got back there. Getting back there, everybody have assembled again because they knew the pattern that once they've come, they might not come back again, So they wanted, their own major concern was, okay, it was surprising to them that I was released. Are you getting it? So there must have been a deal with the police. Something must have happened. Maybe I have now been turned into an informant. So they wanted to get stuff from me like, what? How come? We saw them take you, handcuff you. What happened? How are you back here? So they gave me some drugs just like cool off so that, you can talk. I was like, nothing. So eventually I found out that they didn't believe that I was just let go. They started seeing me as strange, in their midst, like, because I was still staying with them, like, come on, this guy. You don't get into the hands of these guys and come out now. 1 naira you didn't pay. So that's what they were exhibiting, I believe, were kind of pointers to me to begin to see actually what God was about to do in my life. So one day we're having a conversation, and then one of my friends was like, man, we're talking about, I told you I was trying to prepare to go really into this lifestyle, find my own stealing crafts where I can major in. I'm being exceptional. And, I was already preparing to go fully into guns and into full-time robbery. Like, my mind was settled on it. My mind was really made up on that. Like, I was able to start the next day before this raid came. Now, we're talking after that period. And then the friend was like, man, he knows what he does, that his own is to use his own hands. So it was supposed to be like, okay, Newman, you know your own, you know you are brilliant now, you can use your brain and, maneuver things. So, but the way he said it was like, you know who you are, you know your own. So that statement again, it struck a chord in me, you know who you are. And, my mind started going back to how I'd encountered Christ the first time and who I am. The bits of scriptures I've read started coming to life in me. And I started seeing this. And then I went to, when I was running away from them, I went to Nyanya one time. There was a bunk there in Nyanya, just to hide for a period. And the guy had my bag because we didn't pay him finish. So what happened? I think I went home. One of those days after the raid, I went back to my house and I was thinking about all of these things. And it was really coming up like really strong in me. I was thinking. And then because of all the falling, the running from police and drugs were already, I wasn't getting much of it already. Those symptoms, severe symptoms started coming. And I had malaria but somewhere in me, something was like, the love of God was just becoming real somewhere. Something was like, guy, God is your only option now. Like, God is. But I was fighting this thing because I was like, I knew the experience I had when I, first of all, encountered Christ, when I tried to do right. And I was like, I cannot go back to trying to serve God, worship God, and be falling. Like, is that what I'm going to go back then? So I was fighting with it, but something kept telling me that God is the only option. So that night, on my own, this time around, nobody told me anything. On my own, I just spoke to God like, real, I'm talking to a person. No, this wasn't drama. I just had that interaction and, asked him for help, asked him for mercy. And that was where the turnaround started. After I was really ill, but God helped. I got treated and I was fine. And there was the kind of withdrawal symptoms I was supposed to experience, it wasn't there. You get it? So supernatural things started happening. It wasn't there. And something happened. One of those times when I was recovering, I think that Thursday, the bust was on Thursday. I went home on Friday. And then on Saturday, I was having treatment. From that treatment, I went to that Nyanya to go and get my bag. And this was where, when you see somebody's between life and death, like, I think, if I want to put it maybe a bit dramatic, I said maybe God and the devil was just dragging for this. So something, addiction still drew me back. I was like, okay, let me do my last. I knew I was saved. Now, I knew I wanted to follow God, but I said, let me do my last. And that last would have actually been my last, literally, on this earth. Because I met the drug guy and it just went wrong. And I was so weak on treatment, I was ill, and I wanted to take drugs. And it went so bad that we had a fight. If not that he was drunk, and this locality where we were, like, he would have just stabbed me. He was bigger than me. He would have stabbed me or something, and I would have died there. Are you getting it? But somehow I managed to escape that. Now, looking back at all of these things, when I came back, I just really man, God, you have to really, you have to show me that you are real. It has to be your hand. Something, I know I just really showed my helplessness to God this time. It wasn't this kind of prayer where you design it. No, it's like when you're really broken. Like, if you don't help me, I know that I had that conviction that nothing else, if God doesn't help me, I cannot help myself. Nobody can help me. I just need another help that can just do this. So after I made that prayer, honestly, there was this peace that came. But, last time peace came, but it wasn't just the peace. It didn't stop in the peace. What happened this time was that the desire died. The desire died. Because my fear was like, how do I start battling with trying not to do it? Trying to live a good life by myself. So God was, at this time, going to show me that, okay, it's a nature, and it's this nature that he's going to tackle. Oh, that's where. So I just found out that the desire just died. I was so much into fornication, sleeping around, the desire just died. Drinking, smoking, like it just, these were things I wanted to do by myself before it got worse. But because of how I was taught, we have to do all of these things. But I now saw that, wow, this was what God wanted me to do, just to accept his own help and, see that I cannot help myself. So I think when we come to that point, that realization that, man, we cannot help ourselves. All right, so, like I said, this time around, I come to see from my experience that not everybody you see out there, yeah, we've made mistakes, we've gone into this thing, but people are actually looking for a way out. Not everybody out there, you might see somebody that just does something, but inside that person, the person is crying and like, man, how do I change this? And the person doesn't really know how to. Back then in the bunk, there used to be this general ahead of him. I never got to meet him, but I was planning to do that as well. So these guys in the bunk who, steal to get drugs and all these things, they meet somewhere, they have a class for like, is it 4 weeks or something, or a meeting for 4 weeks in duration to enroll themselves for rehabilitation. So I think the general provides a house somewhere, they stay away from drug. And these guys, they've gone there, they've come out, they'll tell you like, man, somehow they still found themselves back, to this life. So it's not like they didn't make efforts, you get it, but that's why I say it's still beyond the human nature, these things, especially addiction is, something very serious. So they come there, they meet people who, like they rush for it, like you have to attend the meetings, you have to book early. It's just like when you only rush for things are beneficial for you. So when you see people doing that, you begin to have that level of sympathy, like, wow, these guys, they want to help themselves. So people try to get space for those rehabilitation programs, but as much as they do, they go in there, they come out after a period of time. And, I wish I actually got to meet this general, because from the stories I heard, those guys, they're like, man, he's so nice. He wanted to help them, like transform their life. Some who had real closer relations were like, this guy was ready to do. At that point, someone was telling me that, you're a writer, you're intelligent. Like, general is going to like you so much. Like, I mean, you have usefulness. He can, put you somewhere, and you have prospects and all of that. But I never got to meet him. So there are people like that, and they were looking for this opportunity, just to get out of this shit. But somehow they went and they still, came back and fell into it. So when we see people, let's, as much as we can, pray for them, and try as much as possible to limit the condemnation, because that's one thing, even church do. We just condemn people outrightly. Yes, they've made a mistake. One thing, one first step of rehabilitation is love, the show of love. So show of love is to let people know that you understand what they're passing through. Once that already makes prepare the person to accept help. If the person doesn't see that you're actually relating, man, whatever you're saying is, you don't understand. So if you don't understand, you cannot tell me, give me a solution, because you don't understand. So once somebody can know, and I think that's the first thing I experienced with God, my encounter, it was love. I was like, man, with all of these things, you're still coming for me. Like, you're still coming for me, you're still doing this. And right now, it's love that is propelling me. Are you getting it? It's not based on trying to keep a righteousness, trying not to do good. I just find out that I am now not doing those things. I just find it happening in me. While all I'm doing is just loving God, and I'm finding this thing happening in me. So these guys as well, we need to, lessen on the condemnation and show them love. Let them know that there could be better tomorrow. And with people around to really help us, tell us the truths that truly, yes, you cannot help yourself. That's why I go out for evangelism, and as much as I can talk to young people around, the evangelism we knew then was more or less, don't steal, don't drink, don't fornicate. And when people try to make a decision for Christ, They come in with this mindset that I don't have to. So they now look at, it's now a law to them that they have to meet up. And man cannot keep the law. The essence of the law, the Bible tells us, is to reveal to us that we cannot meet the standard. That is the essence. So that was why Paul came. He tried. He came to that point that, man, I'm so wretched. Man cannot help himself. So man naturally isn't able, no matter how you try to, that is why we still talk to people, even who would not be doing all this kind of, engage in all these vices, to let them know that it's not even the vices, it's a salvation from the nature. So some people want to tell you, okay, I don't do this, but then you see them, there's pride, there's one other thing that might not easily be seen as sin or, unrighteousness. So it's a nature that produces this thing, and where the salvation, that help is from that nature. God looks at us and, you look at, you see a father who is like, my son. So it's not, the picture we get is like an angry God with, a rod just wanting to just destroy you. You have sinned, you shall die because you have sinned. But instead, it's a father who is looking at a child that is not able and is sick, and he wants to treat that child, but it's just for that child to do what? To accept this treatment. I mean, he loves us so much, like there's so much love. So that was what happened to me in my room. I think after coming to that realization, I think what I did was to just take his hand. And the moment I did that, I saw that he has been wanting to help me ever since. So each time I talk to people, I don't tell them, it's not as if we encourage it, but I don't tell you, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop. No, that is not the thing. People need to realize that this is how you are. This is how man is naturally. This is how you are born. You're born a sinful, he said, through one man, sin entered the world. So except you're not tracing yourself to Adam. And even if you're not doing that, that's just delusion. You're just deceiving yourself. So through one man, now through this man, it has gone through to us. And through another man, another life comes. So by God's grace, I was able to align myself to that other man. So what applies to that man? You see, the sin question is not what you do. It's a judgment that was placed on a man. And because you came from that man, you're bearing the fruits of that judgment. Now, the righteousness discussion is also because of a man. So it's a man that has been termed righteous. It's not you. It's Christ that has been termed righteous. He has fulfilled the law. Now, because I have attached myself to him, I'm also seen as what? As righteous. So it is his own righteousness that I am using, not even my own righteousness. It is that righteousness in him now that now births a righteous living in me. So formerly it is the sinful judgment on Adam that was birthing sinfulness in me, and I was trying to that's what we've been trying to do, to manage to cut out all those sinfulness, but the nature was there. So but God translating me from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of light, through that encounter I had in my room, I tell you, it has never been easier. Like, it keeps going, it just keeps getting sweeter. I look at myself and I'm like, wow. People look at me, somebody an old friend told me, like, he told my dealer that he's still into it. I'm trusting God that he'll also have an encounter. He told my dealer that Newman doesn't do it. He said, don't worry, he will come back. Because the way I took drug, it's not, nobody would believe that this kind of person, I mean, he should have a relapse. He should, come back so much. It will be so, you cannot bear it, you just come back. But it never happened. Why? Because that void has been filled. So I find joy, and all I know is that this joy can only get better. It can only get better. So it just keeps growing. So I just want more of this joy. It's different from that time where there was, as much as I did this, it wasn't satisfying me at all. But here I found, that joy, and I know that it just keeps getting better and better.
Wow. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so I hope we do this again.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Everest.